The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Well, at least it's better than Spider-Man 3. That movie made me want to take my whip shooters and just blow my brains out. Hey there guys, how are you? Sorry for the dark, creepy, weird intro. I'm just being honest with you. Spider-Man 3 is an abomination against humanity, and it should be erased from the history books. Now let's talk about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Do I have the same feelings? Well, you'll see at the end of the review. But first, this is the follow-up to The Amazing Spider-Man, which was a shallow, underwhelming reboot of Spider-Man. And speaking of the first Amazing Spider-Man, at one point in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they do reference that movie and how dumb its plot actually was. They're talking about Dr. Kirk Connors, and they're like, yeah, that guy who wanted to turn everyone else into giant lizards? That was stupid. And for that, I respect this movie just a little bit. Okay, let's attempt to talk about what the plot of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is all about. Now, if you've seen the first movie, you didn't even need to see it, because this movie's gonna redo everything the first movie did, except for Uncle Ben being shot to death. Peter, that was your fault. Sorry, I'm just putting that out there. But this movie tries to redo everything the first movie did with all the same plot points. For instance, you have Peter Parker's father, which, by the way, that was kind of a tongue twister right there. In the first movie, there's this big mystery behind why he left Peter at such a young age. And this movie literally spends the same amount of screen time telling that exact same story that the first movie already did. So now we gotta go through all the same motions again, and you learn a few new things along the way, but there's so much screen time dedicated to it, it's like I didn't even need to watch the first movie. You literally just gave me every single flashback I seen the first time around. Much like the first Spider-Man movie, this movie just feels hollow and shallow, and it feels like there's not a continuation of feelings and emotions from scene to scene. All the scenes of this movie, from one scene to the next scene to the scene after that, they feel very disconjointed. It feels like things were just shoehorned in there for the sake of being in there for no other reasons. There's no build-up. To sum up my complaints about this movie, it just felt like the movie did not have a rhythm to it. It just felt very disconjointed, discombobulated, uncohesive. And you know, when you have a movie that does that for 2 hours and 20 minutes, it's hard to get immersed into the movie. Am I still talking about the plot of this movie? I think I am, but let's just continue on. The movie has 3 villains in it. One of them is Rhino, who's in the movie for about 43 seconds. And the Rhino in this movie is played by Paul Giamatti. Love Paul Giamatti. Hey, Spider-Man, I'm gonna come over there. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. Hear me, Spider-Man? Now let's talk about the main villain of the film, and that is Electro, played by Jamie Foxx. Now, I'm a huge fan of Jamie Foxx. He starred in great movies like Django Unchained and the underrated flick Collateral. Now, Jamie Foxx is a good actor, but there was only so much he could do with the piss-poor script and dialogue he was given in this film. At one point, he's like, "It's my birthday, Spider-Man. I'm gonna blow up my own candles." And it's like, what the fuck was that? I'm not even joking. That's literally how he gives that line. And Electro in this movie at times kind of reminded me of Jim Carrey's Riddler in Batman Forever. The underlooked, underappreciated guy who the big corporation steals all of his ideas and utilizes them and don't give him any credit. Essentially, Electro in this movie was pretty damn similar to Jim Carrey's Riddler in Batman Forever. And I stand by that. But on a positive note, Electro is pretty cool to look at, visually stunning. He had kind of like a Dr. Manhattan blue glowy thing going on. It was fun to look at when you're watching him on the big screen. And also, I liked his score. Now, Hans Zimmer did the score to this movie, which, by the way, was very underutilized. I would say they did not use Hans Zimmer to his full potential, because the score in this film just doesn't really stand out. It doesn't really motivate you. It doesn't intensify all the situations. You know, you take Hans Zimmer's score for movies like Gladiator, Man of Steel, the Dark Knight trilogy, The Rock. I could keep going all day long. Those scores in those movies built you up as a viewer. They gave you little goosebumps. You're like, this is amazing. This is epic. But in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, his score just kind of was not used properly. Now, he did do something interesting. He kind of did like this dubstep kind of thing for Electro's theme. I guess the best thing about the movie when it comes to the score, but other than that, what a waste of Hans Zimmer. And the third villain in the movie is played by Dane DeHaan, who looks like a young Leonardo DiCaprio, and he plays Harry Osborn, who later transforms into the Green Goblin, or an incarnation of the Green Goblin. I smell something else like lurking in the background here. I have conspiracy theories about this movie and where they're going with it. But for the sake of just not even diving into any of that, I'm just going to say he is the Green Goblin for now. And I kind of liked him as the Green Goblin. Now, they did kind of shoehorn in his story, his relationship with Peter Parker. It's like, yeah, we grew up together, then you went away, and now we're here again. So we have a relationship back and forth. It's a little bit convenient, like half the scenes in this movie, but I guess we're just going to do it. Because why? It carries the plot along, and we can throw in another villain in this movie. And speaking of the Green Goblin, the biggest positive remark I can give to this movie is the final showdown confrontation between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin. That scene was very intense, and I was like, yep, that included the best scene in the entire movie. Okay, so here's the part of the review where I calm down just for a few seconds, we get a little bit casual before my head explodes, and I tell you some things I noticed about the movie that really bothered me and made me cringe. Now, throughout this movie, like I said, it's very discombobulated, not very cohesive, but there was just so many bad little things in this movie that they easily could have fixed, but they just left in there, and you can't help but think to yourself, why would you do that? That just does not help your movie. Now, for instance, I'll give you an example. There's several battle sequences in this movie, fight scenes, that take place on public streets. And they're very dangerous. People could die very easily. Things are blowing up. At one point, there's guns going off at the end of the movie, and you always have this large group of bystanders, like people just standing there watching this, and they're behind a barricade, and cops are like, hey, stand back, everybody, stand back. I'm sorry to say, if explosions were going off and bullets were flying all over my head, I don't think I'd be standing there behind the barricade watching it like it's some kind of attraction at Universal Studios. I would run for my life. And just little details like that throughout this movie really just irritated me. At one point, I took my Sour Patch Kids and I squeezed them real tight into a ball. And I looked at that ball of sour concoctionist deliciousness and I put it in my mouth. And I enjoyed it. If you guys are new to my channel, you're probably thinking, what the fuck did I click on? I'm on the weird side of YouTube again. Anyway, guys, so here are my final thoughts on The Amazing Spider-Man 2. At times, this movie does exactly what it should. Visually, it's fun to look at. It was impressive. Some of the action sequences, I was like, yeah, that's fun to watch, especially in IMAX 3D. And when Spider-Man's swinging through the city and some of the visuals and camera shots and angles that they include in this movie, they're impressive. It's everything you want to see when Spider-Man's in action. But when Spider-Man takes that mask off in this movie, you're just like, what the hell am I watching right now? I literally got bored at some points. I'll give you an example. Andrew Garfield in this movie, who plays Peter Parker, at times does a pretty decent job of playing Peter Parker Spider-Man. He does the smart alecky comments like Spider-Man does in the comics, but at times, the director of this movie allowed his actors to do a little too much improv for their own good. And what I mean by that, it almost felt like a Judd Apatow film at times. You know, you have Peter Parker sitting there talking to Gwen Stacy, and he's like, oh, you want me to go to London? Oh, I bet London's cold. Oh, Aunt May, that's my American flag. Oh, but yeah, it kind of just felt like they were trying a little too hard to improv. It wasn't very natural. It had no substance whatsoever to it, and it wasn't all that funny. When you have a movie that's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, use the runtime. Make things matter. Don't just drag it out with random bullshit and flashback ghost scenes of Dennis Leary looking at you, which were hilarious, by the way. If you've seen the movie, you might know what I'm talking about. Hysterical. I'm sorry. Every time Dennis Leary's dead ghost corpse came on screen, I kind of laughed. So I'm going to give The Amazing Spider-Man 2 a C+, which I think is fair. Middle of the road score for a middle of the road superhero action movie. So that's my review for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and if you love the movie, you probably really hate this video right now, and I'm sorry, I had to be honest with you. So anyway, guys, here's my question to you, and let me know down below, what did you think about The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Come on, let's get a little bit brutal down below. Anyway, guys, like I said in my last video, I do have an upcoming movie Q&A where people submitted tons of great questions talking about movies, random, nonsensical things. So that video is coming very soon. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. I'll see you guys next time.